Hello everybody and welcome to our Year 10 Parents Information Evening. Before I get started formally, I would just like to say thank you very much for tuning in and watching this presentation at home, hopefully on your sofa with some popcorn. It's a bit different to us. We still are unable to invite you into school and spend some time with us en masse. So what I've decided to do is to record this, send it to you, and I'm just going to pretend really that I can see all of your faces in the audience and that you're laughing at some of the jokes and things like that. So we'll see how we go. Thank you. I wanted to start with this. Hooray. I can't begin to tell you how wonderful it has been to have the students back at school. Year 10 in particular, they're such a positive year group. Their energy was absolutely fantastic. I said to them on Friday, by lunchtime, I was feeling a little bit weary. I was kind of, sort of second day in, haven't been on my feet for the second day running, feeling a little bit tired. And then I met them in the lunch queue and they were just so full of positivity, energy and vibrancy. They really lifted me back up again and I was good to go for the afternoon. So absolutely wonderful bunch of youngsters. These are our presentations that we'd like to share with you this evening. So I'm just going to give a little oversight, a little welcome introduction of what's happening, importance of Year 10, and an update about the COVID-19 situation and how that affects us at school. And then my colleagues are going to talk a little bit about, more specifically, subject changes, give you some advice and guidance, and Mr. White's going to talk to you a little bit about the whole GCSE experience. Be prepared to hear something about exam ninjas, I would imagine. This is where we're going to start though, because Year 10, really building on those foundations of success that were put in place in Year 9. So girls, you'll have already started to be thinking really carefully about things that was working really well for you in Year 9, both pre-school lockdown and during school lockdown, and be in a position to know what you need to do, what you need to change to move on and make this year even more successful than last year. You do, of course, have the most exciting time ahead this year because, you are now studying those subjects that you have chosen to study, the ones that really ignite your passion and interest for learning. So exciting times. Parents, just going to reintroduce to you a little bit about the leadership team so that you know who to contact. So Mr. Powell, in charge of Upper Oldfield Park campus, but most specifically and pertinently for you, the curriculum, and thank you for all of the work that you did with him with securing the option choices for your daughter. Mr. White, you'll get to work with very closely over the next few years as he's in charge of achievement, as well as line managing the staff over at Broomhays. Mrs. Eaton, who's been promoted to assistant head teacher, and she's in charge of the pastoral care of the school and leads on safeguarding. And Miss Cording, who does an ever such important job of looking at character development, because without that character, without all of those values and qualities and skills, actually the results don't really, the results are really dependent on actually attitude. So the work that Miss Cording does is really, really important. Your pastoral team has changed a little bit this year. So your daughter has been very lucky to keep working with Miss Norton. So Miss Norton is continuing into Year 10 and remaining the Director of Achievement. But they're now in the capable hands of Mrs. White, who's our Senior Pastoral Manager, and she's also the Deputy Safeguarding Lead. And of course, overseeing all of that work will be Mrs. Eaton, as you've just seen on the leadership team. So we've talked about the foundations to success, and we've been talking to you ever since your daughter joined the school in year 7 about this journey to success through GCSE and how that ties in school vision or achieving ambitions and all of the characters and the qualities that we're looking for. This is where it all ends up, which, quite scary, is only 2 years away now, girls. So I wanted to share with you what happened in our GCSE results day this summer. Was a little bit of a strange day because we had to have the students come and collect their results in their face coverings, and then we found some safe places where they could remove those to have some joyous photographs. So a nice selection for you to look at the screen there. I do want to take time just to remind you about where we're going as a school, so that you can remain confident in knowing that what we're doing is going to be making the right decisions and choices to make sure that we open as many doors as possible for your daughter. our school achievement over time there, both the rolling averages with the number of students who leave Hastefield with 5 or more grade 4 passes and above, and also with the basics in English and maths. I've put these graphs up on the screen so that you can see how much higher achievement at Hastefield is compared to what happens nationally. So that gap between the blue line, which is Hastefield, and the red line or the orange line, which is the national results, very, very proud of that gap, and it just continues to grow. 91% of all of our grades this year and last year too were awarded a grade 4 or above. Now I want to show you some slides here that I'm sharing with your daughter in assembly this week because I'm setting them a little bit of a challenge. So I'm asking them, do they think they too can become one of the 9 in 10 girls who leave Hastefield with 5 or more GCSE passes at a grade 4 or above? So that's a gauntlet that I've set them, because not just last year, but pretty much every year for the last 3 years, around about 9 in 10 of our girls have done just that. So I'm getting them to start thinking about what they want to do, how high they want to set their aspirations and their goals, because I then say to them, girls, why leave it at that? Would you like to be one of the 1 in 3 Hastefield girls who leaves here with 5 or more grades, at the top grades of 7 to 9 with your GCSEs? And then I'll look at them and I say, actually, why leave it at that? When you could be one of the 1 in 4 girls who leaves Hastefield with 8 or more of your GCSEs at grades 7 to 9, which is a remarkable achievement. So that's a gauntlet that I have laid down for them. Of course, not everything comes down to grades. A lot of what we do at Hastefield is all about progress. So those grades are always relative to the starting points. And we have girls who come to us at Hastefield from all different ability backgrounds and starting off at different places. So this is what I do want to share with you, because we had a great achievement this year. We broke through the +1 boundary in our Progress 8 measures. Now, Progress 8 score for me is always a super important one because it measures progress. It measures the value that we've added to the girls' GCSE outcomes as a school. So we've been on a great journey. We're regularly in the top 10% of schools nationally. But actually, with our +1 breakthrough now with a Progress 8 score, it means that on average, girls here would leave with a one GCSE grade higher than somebody else who started off at the similar starting point in year 7 at a different school. So that's really great. Now, unfortunately, we won't be able to have that in the performance tables because there are no performance tables. But something else rather exciting has happened instead, which I would like to share with you. This came out in the Bath Chronicle on the 23rd of July, so just right at the end of last term. A really, really proud moment for us because last year we were awarded the accolade of being the best school in Bath and North East Somerset, and I'm super proud to say that we are now, for the 2nd year running, we remain the best school in Bath and North East Somerset, and that's issued by the Real Schools Guide. So the difference in the Real Schools Guide and the school performance tables is that the Real Schools Guide actually uses a much wider measurements to rate schools of how good they are. So the performance table is just on academic achievement, whereas the Real Schools Guide, they do look at the outcomes, the academic achievement, but they also look at schools and they look at the attendance data, so how many of their students are coming to school regularly. They also look at future destinations, which to me is super important. So they look to see where the students, when they've left that school, what have they gone on to do, what have they gone on to be in life, and then they rate those schools accordingly. Really, really pleased to tell you that Hastefield gained this title of the best school in Bath and North East Somerset because we gained 5 out of 5 stars for every single category. So we're feeling very happy about that. So I just wanted to remind you about how we do that, because we talk often about being a member of Team Hastefield. And remember, Team Hastefield is all of us. It's the staff at school, it's you at home, it's your daughter. It's about how we all work together to make the magic happen. So just to remind you, the magic happens when we are a great team. Us trying new things together, not giving up when times get hard. For us as staff, it really is literally about throwing everything at it, making sure that we keep things fresh, keep the learning vibrant. We're keeping our eye on the goal. We've kind of had a look. We've been looking through the flight paths with your daughter lower down the school and looking very much of where we look to see her being in the future and making sure that she's making the progress there to get there. And of course, all of us at all times being super ambitious. That's our school logo, that's our motto, achieving ambitions. It's really at the heart of everything that we're doing together. Now, before I hand you over to my colleagues, I do want to address the little bit of an elephant in the room, and that is the COVID-19 situation. I think it's really important that I just spend a little bit of time explaining to you about how we're keeping your daughter safe at school. So we have around the school very many measures in place, and it's all around keeping or staying safe at school. We've got these posters reminding us of the different things that we are doing. Here is an overview of those main changes. The first one is minimising contact with anybody who's got symptoms of COVID-19, making sure that we're all cleaning our hands more thoroughly and more often. We're promoting good respiratory hygiene, minimising contact between different student groups, and maintaining social distancing between students and staff and students and themselves wherever possible. So I'm just going to go through those little points in a bit more detail. And really importantly, explain to you how you can help us, please, because we're all part of this team. The first thing that you can do in terms of helping us is to minimise contact with individuals who are unwell. So if your daughter is displaying any symptoms of COVID-19 at home, please keep her at home and get her tested as soon as possible. Only send her back to school when that test result comes back negative. Also, we might contact you if your daughter is displaying signs of COVID-19 in school, and we'll ask you to come and collect her and take her away to go and get tested for the COVID-19 too, please. So that's where we need your help. And of course, at all times, you'll be following the government stay-at-home guidance. Lots of posters around the school about keeping hands clean, making sure that they are washed thoroughly and more often. Very specifically, the girls do need to wash their hands before they come into school premises. We've got lots of outdoor sinks, or they come in and they go straight to the toilets and wash their hands so that we're minimising any transmission of anything from outside coming inside. The girls are also being told to make sure that their hands are clean at the start and the end of lessons, and start and end of break times and lunch times too. In terms of promoting good respiratory hygiene, you can be really helpful to us if you can just make sure, please, that your daughter comes to school with tissue so that she can do the catch it, bin it, kill it approach, and if you could just do some work with her if she's not aware of how to sneeze using the elbow, so sort of catching it on the elbow sneeze. I've got a niece who's in year 6 and she's very well trained at it. I'm sure your daughter will know what she's doing. In terms of minimising contact between students, you can really help me out here, please, because the girls really do need to understand that they're not to make unnecessary contact with students outside their own year group bubble, walking to and from school or socialising outside of school. So if you can deter her from mixing with other students in other year groups at this point in time, please, we would be super grateful. We'd also, it would be very helpful to us if you could make sure that your daughter is sent to school at the right time for her starting times, and make sure that she understands which entrance and which exit she's to use at the start and the end of the day. Social distancing then, we do have the one-way system set up. We've got the floor markings, and the girls have been told to make sure that they're exiting school buildings and walking around as much as possible. Keeping outside is considered generally safer than to be in a crowded corridor. And we're encouraging them at the moment to eat their lunch outside if the weather is good, which it is. Now, something that came our way in the days leading up to return to school was the government's guidance on using face coverings. So we have decided that in our school, we are going to ask that students use their face covering in busy communal areas. So, for example, the corridors, queuing up for lunch or for break time, or if they're in a larger gathering like an assembly. So you can help us, please, by making sure that your daughter, when you pack her off in the morning, she does have her face covering with her. Teachers may also ask your daughter to wear a face covering if they're going to spend a little bit of prolonged time in closer contact with each other. You'll be aware that things are constantly changing, as well as consistently changing. There's only one thing that's constant, and that's change. And we're having a lot of it at the moment, and specifically now that your daughter's in Year 10, there might be some more curriculum changes coming through as well. So please keep up to date with us. Please have a look at the emails that we're sending you. Really importantly, I know some people don't like to answer calls that come out as no caller ID. Unfortunately, our phone system does tell you no caller ID, so it could be us ringing you during school hours. So please, if you could pick up your phone, that would be super useful. And of course, if you read the school weekly bulletin, I do a lot of information sharing there, as do the rest of my team at school. Thank you for listening patiently to my bit. I'm going to pass you now to the hands of Mr. White. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mr. White. I'm Deputy Head Teacher responsible for achievement. I'm here to speak to you about the GCSE experience, particularly how it's different to the experience that certainly you may have had, and perhaps with older siblings as well. The first reformed GCSEs were introduced in the summer of 2017, and by last summer, all GCSEs were graded under the new system. What's different? Mainly that there is a big change to the content for all GCSEs. There is an emphasis on more demand in terms of the content, and also in terms of the amount of content as well that students have to cover. The exams have now moved to exams at the end of 2 years, rather than perhaps the modular system that older students or yourselves may have gone through. Some subjects still do have a modular exams, and they will be told about that and should know about that in subjects like business, health and fitness, child development, hospitality. There is no coursework at all for core and EBAC subjects. The only times where they are allowed to have other forms of assessment is where they feel you can't provide that valid assessment in that particular subject. And as I've said, there is more knowledge-based, more content, and indeed there is an extended writing element to it. So staff have been working to get to grips with the new systems. They have become experts in those systems, working with the exam boards, and they are fully prepared to ensure that your daughter gets the very best out of her GCSEs in those subjects. The grading system has caused some confusion, and the table shows you how it links to the old GCSE grading. The government introduced a number of different elements to add to the standard A star to G system. The C grade is anchored around the grade 4. So grade 4 is what is known as the standard pass. They have now put into play a strong pass, which is grade 5. So whilst we would want all students to aim for a standard pass, we want as many as possible to be really pushing for the strong pass and above. And I'll explain how that's relevant to subjects in a moment. There is also at the top end a grade 9. Now, some would say this is the A star grade, so this is where there is the extra emphasis on only a very small percentage of the population for each of those subjects in getting those grade 9s, unless, of course, they're a Haysfield student. In terms of what it really means when you're thinking about, well, what's the difference between a grade 4 and a grade 5, or grade 9, grade 8, and these grades, really it's about looking at where they want to go in post-16. So when you're looking at courses at sixth forms or at colleges, they'll talk about how many grade 4s, standard passes, or how many grade 5s or 6s that you might need to take on those courses. If you look at our sixth form section on the school website, you can see in the sixth form information about the different pathways that you can take, and it talks about the different qualification levels that you'd need to be able to take those pathways. Some of the GCSE courses have started in Year 9, so your daughter is already a year into GCSEs in English, in maths, and in science, and obviously now all her subjects are following a GCSE pathway to finish at the end of Year 11. There is an emphasis on ensuring that they are prepared for terminal exams. There's an emphasis on ensuring that we can really help them build those skills and capacity to cope well and produce their very best in each of those exams. All subjects have got to focus on how to develop exam technique and ensuring really that they're ready, alongside those subjects that do have the modular approach. By the time she reaches year 11, end of year 11, they'll be bored to tears at me going on about being exam ninjas. But we do believe that these are the real key skills that you need to be successful in any pressure environment. And the exams are a pressure environment. We're not going to hide from that. And these key skills really, we think, is what we want them to be when they walk into that exam. And that's why we do keep, particularly in assemblies and other revision sessions, entertaining them with the idea that we want them to be those ninjas. It's interesting seeing them in their first assembly with all their face coverings on. They already look like ninjas. So we're halfway there. The key dates slide, there's obviously more dates and more information will come out through the year. We are obviously in a slightly changing situation. But it's really important that your daughter knows, particularly in those vocational subjects, those subjects that have got modular exams, when those exams are. Staff will be talking to them about them, helping them prepare for those exams. For your daughter mainly, there is the October Child Development Exam, and that is for those students who've already started it in Year 9, but there is also opportunities to sit that exam in May, and that's when we'll be looking to support those students in doing that. There is the Health and Fitness exam in March, so there are a number of modular exams through the year that your daughter needs to be really aware of and ensure that she's cleared some space and time to be as prepared as she can for those exams to perform at her very best. We have got Year 10 Parents' Evening in March. That is really to help prepare them for the last step and ensure that you're getting an update on how they're doing. And then we have our own internal assessments and exams in June. So that usually tags on to the GCSE exam period where students will set a formal set of assessments and exams. In my responsibility for achievement, I'll be working very closely with Miss Norton to ensure that we support your daughter in her preparation and ensuring that she really is in the very best possible shape to go on to the next stage of her education. I shall now hand you over to Miss Tuig for some overview on English.
Hello, I'm Liz Tuig and I'm the Head of English at Hayesfield. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to succeed in English literature and in English language. So we have a very experienced English team raring to go. So you will be familiar with the English team of teachers. We've got no new additions to our team this year, which is most excellent. It means we all know exactly what we're doing. So, the English language and literature course will now run over the next 2 years. We've started that focus on literature, but the literature and the language courses really interweave. So we have not got any worries at all about the success of our girls now entering that exam at the end of year 11. In fact, we feel like they've almost got a step ahead of everybody else because we've already started teaching it. And we've now rewritten the curriculum map for English and English language and English literature so that it's really clear, and that will be on the website for you to look at if you wanted to have a look at how that pans out over the next 2 years. So many literature skills are examined in the language papers, analysing language, looking at writer's craft, examining linguistic devices and the effect on the reader and so forth. So they really do interweave with each other. So moving forwards, the course content. We now need to study Literature Paper 1, Shakespeare and the 19th century novel. You have one question with an extract on Shakespeare and one question on your 19th century novel. And that could be Frankenstein or A Christmas Carol, Jekyll and Hyde. It will depend on your teacher and which book they feel best suits you. The girls have already covered the modern text, which is of Inspector Calls, and the AQA Love and Relationships poetry. So that's fantastic, but we won't forget that. We'll revisit that when we hit year 11, and we'll make sure that we have enough time. And again, you'll see from the plans on the curriculum pages how that pans out. We also need to teach them the unseen poetry element for the literature course. Now, the GCSE language course content looks like this. I won't read through that because you can read through that yourselves. But it consists of 2 papers, paper 1 and paper 2. They're very similar in format. The first section has 4 questions, and that's based on reading. So you learn about all the skills that a writer does in that first section. And then you show those skills in your own writing in section B of both the papers. Paper 1 looks at fiction and a creative piece at the end. Paper 2 looks at exploring non-fiction texts, and then it's writing for purpose. So you write to persuade or to advise. But both the papers are 1 hour and 45 minutes. We also do a non-exam assessment of spoken language, and this is where the girls give a speech to their class or to a small group of students about a topic of their choice, and we guide them and we train them up for that. Now that doesn't go towards the English language result, but what you'll find is when you pick up your results, you'll see a P for pass, an M for merit, or a D for distinction at the end of your results. And that will just show your employers or your future college, university courses and places that you can speak fluently and you're aware of your audience. Hopefully, probably a bit better than I'm doing at the moment. So what do we read and what have we read so far in GCSE English Literature? So we're going to revisit Shakespeare. We're going to look at Romeo and Juliet again. And we would normally do this in our plans. We always go back in year 10. We always start in September with Shakespeare, and we always go back over Romeo and Juliet to make sure everybody is confident. We've already taught, but we will revisit the Inspector Calls text. And then this year we will look at the 19th century novel, and it will be just one of these texts. So it will be, like I've said, Christmas Carol, Frankenstein, it could be Pride and Prejudice, Jekyll and Hyde. And then we've already taught, but we're going to revisit the AQA Love and Relationships poetry. Now the language texts that are in the language paper, we don't know. They're a bit of an unknown, but we do know that that first paper is about fiction and the second paper a non-fiction text, and you get 2 of them to compare. So it's really important, if you don't already now, to start to read non-fiction texts. So that's a wide variety of newspapers, news articles, a range of magazine articles, and non-fiction also from the 19th century literature. So non-fiction text, including that 19th century, is really important. Oh, picture of Tom York there, I think he's a bit of a genius. Just leave that on. I do enjoy when that pops up on the slide. So you can read things from The Guardian, you can look at The Times, you can look at Vogue, New Scientist. If you've got an iPhone and you get news feeds pop up on those, read those, go and investigate a little bit more, read about the same topic or the same article but in different papers and look at how they are represented differently in those different papers, thinking about audience and purpose. So how do we know they're progressing? Well, as you know, there's always an exam-style question at the end of each unit, which has been marked and will feed back to the students. This allows the students to experience the style of the question, writing within a set time, and exam conditions. And that's super important because there is no point in the girls producing a fabulous grade 9 essay if it's taken them 7 hours to do, because you won't get that in the exam. So that's really important. This continues by the end of year 11. All the girls will have sat a timed assessment on every aspect of the exams, both language and literature, until they are so sick of it and so confident that they will breeze into that exam hall in 2022. So, how do you know how well your daughter is doing? So, they need to have confident SPAG skills, so spelling, punctuation and grammar, and they need to be really good at proofreading their own work because the examiner will not have the opportunity to ask them, what did you mean by that? What do you mean by this sentence? So they need to make sure their writing is really clear and the best it can be. They need to attend and participate in all lessons, attend any additional revision sessions offered, keep their folders really organised, in order and safe. And that's so important that they do that. They can have 2 separate folders now, one for literature and one for language, to store all their information, because when they come back to doing their revision, which will be trickled throughout the 2 years, they need to have those folders in order and they need to be super organised. And the more effort and the more organisation that goes in now, the more they will benefit when it comes to revision, because they won't feel overwhelmed, they'll know where everything is, and they'll know what they need to do to progress and succeed. So the folders are really important. And of course, they need to stay focused and try their very best, which which our girls always do. There's a misconception about English language that you can't revise for English. English literature we know because we reread, we remember quotations, we can do practice essays. With English language, you absolutely can and you absolutely must revise for English language as well. And the best thing to do for that is to go back over past papers, specimen papers, and get your timing right, know which questions are asking which thing of you, and making sure that you know exactly what you're doing. So revision for English language is equally important as revision for literature, and you absolutely must do it. You must not spend all your revision time going over the literature. You must dedicate time to your language as well. So, in order to help with that revision, we have study aids and resources. GCSE Bite Size is fantastic for reading and writing. Revision workbooks that you can buy from school at reduced cost, they're fantastic. There's a CGP English GCSE revision book for language, which we will give the girls at the start of year 10 so they can start to work through that. Sam Learning is also fantastic, and Spark Notes for literature. GCSE Pod is wonderful for literature, but also for English language as well. But it's such a good resource, and it's really fantastic. Then we've got the Pixel Lit app, which is also on our website, and also Seneca Learning, which is fantastic for repetition and learning quotations. It's a really good resource that we've discovered. So all those things can help you, and I know that between us and the girls, they're going to be fantastic. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I'm here today to talk to you about how to be successful and how to succeed in languages. I'm going to focus today on Spanish and French and talk about the AQA GCSE. So, first of all, our course content. You can see there are 3 main areas of study. The first bullet point is identity and culture. Who am I? Daily life, cultural life, sports, hobbies, television, all those little bits and bobs that the girls tend to like to talk about. The next area is local, national, international and global areas of interest, where we talk about environmental issues, social issues, going on holiday, talking about where they live, those kind of things, and finally, our current and future study and employment. And that's where we are at the moment, is beginning to really delve quite deeply into those topics. What are we teaching? So what we're focusing on, really, listening and reading. For year 9, 10 and 11, especially year 10, we want you to be able to read and listen to a native speaker. So everything they listen to in class is just a French or a Spanish person talking, and they need to be able to understand grammar as part of that and recognise cognates. Cognates are those little words that look or sound like the English, and they should be able to pick those out. Speaking, we want them to hold longer conversations, develop some ideas, and deal with the unexpected, because in the exam they're going to have things thrown at them in the speaking exam that they need to be able to deal with. More importantly to me, what do I want you to be able to do in the future with a language? Well, possibly adult life, using it as part of your job, or just meeting people, and even if you want to prepare for A-level study one day. Culture, it's really important that you get to know people from France and Spain, and this year we're lucky enough that we've got 2 foreign language assistants joining us, one from France and one's from Spain, and in year 10 each girl will spend time every fortnight speaking and getting to know the people from France and Spain and learning a little bit more about the culture. And finally, writing. We want you to be able to write formally, so letters of application for jobs, emails requesting hotel booking rooms and things like that, so it's useful for future life. Informally, so imagine that you're writing to a friend, etc. And more importantly, for those aiming for grades 7, 8 and 9, it's persuading somebody else to take on your viewpoint. And for those girls as well, it's using your grammar with confidence and really showing off that exam board. How are we going to do it? Obviously, with listening and reading, it's inferring and deducing meaning from text. It's giving them text and hoping that they'll be able to pick out the main bits of information without relying on dictionaries or that ugly Google Translate machine. Speaking, we use chunks as part of our lessons, in which case all the girls at the beginning of every lesson will be given a nice little grid, and on there will be the chunks, the vocabulary that they're going to learn that lesson and be able to use in that lesson. And we want them to have the confidence and use those chunks to have those conversations. The culture, obviously Spain have the FLA. They're going to take part hopefully in school exchanges, either this year if we get to go to France towards the end of this year, or next year going to Spain. possibly becoming a language ambassador. So if you speak a language that is not just English, you can come and see me and you can be involved with the school that way. And Mr. Allen is going to start something called Language Leaders, where he's going to be looking for some Year 10 to come and help him and do some language stuff to help the Year 7s. And finally, with the writing, we want you to build on your past, present and future. Hopefully all the girls already know the most important thing in languages now is writing in past, present and future. Course content, every skill is worth 25%. 4 skill areas, so in every single lesson they will meet those 4 skill areas. Higher or foundation, there's the big question that parents start asking. So in languages, just like in science and maths, they either sit a higher paper or a foundation paper. You can see here, look through a translation, there was an easy way to show you the difference between a higher and a foundation paper. So the higher, it's a big chunky paragraph where it's a mix of tenses and level of difficulty. And the foundation, it's nice, simple, I'm saying simple because I'm a Spanish teacher, but nice, easy, A, B, C, D, E, short sentences. So quite often we're looking at the girls and think, what's a better fit for them? Where will they get most success? And the GCSE exam board recommend that if they're working at grade 5 to enter for the foundation, it's easier to get a grade 5 on the foundation than it is to get a grade 5 on the higher. And so therefore the higher girls are the ones who are going for those grades 6, 7, 8 and 9. But we'll have lots of discussion with that as the year goes on and on into year 11. Successful students in languages. My most frustrating thing, and my teachers as well, especially in this lockdown, has been girls who don't have super proofreading skills. So things get handed in to us without them having read it first. And we find that really frustrating. So please, 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 girls, can you read before you hand it in to us? Spend time every day going over vocabulary from class. Your vocabulary is your key to success. If you don't know how to read the words, you can't even write an answer on the writing paper, let alone understand the reading paper. Have excellent attendance and participation in lessons. We expect you in the lessons to take part in all activities because every activity is there for a reason. It's going to help you develop your skills and get a better grade. And finally, attend Tuesday clinics. So Tuesday lunchtimes, we hold clinics in our classrooms, and please come along if you need some help. And there'll be posters up on the classroom doors telling you what we're doing. So we usually divide it into, my favourite thing in the world is grammar, and so my Tuesday clinic is grammar, and other people do different, like listening or reading or whatever. So feel free to come along to those. And stay focused and try your really very, very best, because that's really important to us, because the more you have a go, even if you make mistakes, it doesn't really matter. The most important thing is that you have a go. Study aids and resources, I'm not going to talk you through all of those, but they're all there, quite easily accessible on the school website for you to find. And all our resources are in the Q Drive, all our PowerPoints from the lessons. So if they miss a lesson, it's very easy for them to catch up. And the most important thing, please, to take away from today is vocabulary. If nothing else, start learning vocabulary, play around with vocabulary. And if you need to contact me, please contact me at any time, and I'll happily get back to you. Thank you very much for listening.
Hi, I'm Emma Watley and I'm Head of Science. I'm sure I've met most of you before, but what we're going to discuss today, or look at today, is how to succeed in science. So the girls are heading towards terminal exams at the end of year 11. Each of them, regardless of whether they're doing the separate sciences or combined sciences, will have 6 exams to take. The length of the exam will depend upon which pathway they are taking. So those doing the separate sciences, they will have 6 1-hour 45 minutes exams, whereas those on the combined science pathway will have 6 1-hour 15 minutes exams. Students doing the separate sciences will get 3 separate science grades when they come to the summer of year 11. Those doing combined science will get 2 grades. Our successful students in science complete homework and classwork to the best of their ability. We'll be setting a lot of homework, as you'll already know, but they also need to make sure that they ask us for help and use the LEAP sessions as well. Revision materials are provided on the Q Drive to support them with their homework. If we go to the Q Drive and look at science, all of the work for science and support materials are contained in there. There's revision materials, past exam, question practice, and they're there for all of the subjects, biology, chemistry and physics. The folders are set up to make logical sense. So if they go into the past paper file, they can find chemistry, physics and biology questions. If we look at the chemistry questions, they can go in and see that we've separated them out into separate science and trilogy science. Trilogy is the AQA name for the combined science. Once inside those folders, there are more folders which have all of the topics for each of the subjects. Inside the topic areas, we've split out all the questions into the different grades. The girls will know their target grades, or at least they should do, and you can go and choose the questions that are most appropriate for them to complete. Homework's an important part of GCSE, and the science students can expect to do about 2 hours a week. Those doing separate sciences quite often can be expected to do up to 3 hours per week. Homeworks are set for all students, and we set common homeworks which are designed for them to go back and revise the work that they've done previously. Class teachers do sometimes set their own homework according to the needs of the students. So, what else does your daughter need to do to succeed? Well, it's really important that they seek help. They can seek it from teachers, friends and family. It doesn't matter, but they must look for help if they get stuck. If they haven't already done so, they should buy revision guides through Scopay. The most important thing, though, is to act on the feedback from their teachers. Their teachers will be giving them really detailed feedback on what they need to do to move up to that next grade. There are also external resources such as GCSE Pod and Sam Learning that they can use. If you've got any questions or are worried and want some ideas to how to support your daughter, you can always contact me on this email address.
Hello everyone, it's lovely to see you, or not see you in this case. My name is Mr. Powell and I think most of you know me. I'm the Deputy Head Teacher here in charge of the curriculum and in charge of teaching and learning. And one of my jobs is to make sure that your daughter is absolutely prepared for her Year 11 exams at the end of her GCSEs. And that process starts now, and there are lots of ways that your daughter can help herself, and you and I can help her to make those best targets, those best results at the end of Year 11. My main message is kind of clear. Good habits. Starting early, knowing it's going to be really hard to catch up later on, and making sure you get into those really good habits right from the very beginning, so that when you get to Year 11, she's had a fantastic journey all the way through. And she can help herself in so many different ways. Revision notes. That's kind of obvious, isn't it? Make sure all the notes that you write down are highly organised, because then when you read them in 6 months or a year's time, they make sense. They're clear about exactly what the teacher was talking about, and they're clear about exactly what you need to learn. Drip feeding in revision all the way through, not cramming it through to the end. Our girls do not cram their revision at the end, because that adds to the anxiety. Start the revision now, drip feeding it through, little and often. That's the message. Having a really clear idea about what it is that you're going to be assessed on at the end. Some students enter the exams in other schools, certainly, and they're not sure exactly what they're going to be assessed on. Our girls don't do that. They know exactly what they need to do. They know exactly what they're going to be assessed on in that exam, and then they're going to know exactly what content they need to revise and at what point. Creating revision materials early on. By the end of Year 11, your daughter's room is going to be awash with post-it notes and mind maps, and it's a great opportunity to start that early on as well. Start building some really useful revision sources that are going to hold her through really well all the way through 10 and 11. And again, knowing it's going to be really hard to catch up at the last minute, not cramming it all through the end. And I love this picture. The starting gun's gone. It's off. They can make that journey through, and they can make a really successful journey all the way through 10 and 11, as long as they start getting the right habits now. And there's so much support out there for them. There's exam websites, we've got Pixel resources, which I'll talk to you about in a minute, Sam Learning, revision guides, our website, other students, our teachers, a whole pick and mix. And it's really important that your daughter looks at all these resources and find the way to revise that's best for her. If you go on the website, this is our one-stop shop. If you go on the curriculum section, you'll see how all our curriculum units are set out. And that's really useful for knowing exactly what your daughter should be studying and when, and exactly what the exams are going to look like at the end. Our IT access is linked to a range of different websites and resources, and our one-stop shop here, we'll get that right, is our GCSE academic support button. Press on that, and it'll take you through to everything you need. Revision websites, revision resources, support guides for parents. Have a look through. There's some really useful guides for you as well as your daughter there about how to take you through this process. The ICT Access, again, will link you up to our student links. Go and have a look. Go and have a navigate through our website. There's so many materials there that are going to be really, really helpful, and particularly linking into some of those online revision resources that our girls really, really find useful. And I'm going to share with you 4 of them that our girls particularly find useful. The GCSE Bite Size, certainly, most parents have probably already heard of that one. SAM Learning, GCSE Pod, these are great ways of getting short snippets of information, and the girls can build up their revision materials through that as well. And Seneca's new on the market, and so many of our girls are using this as well for that self-testing, very similar to the kind of experience they're going to have in the exams. Pixel Independence is on there as well, and we're going to explain exactly what this is to your daughter, so don't worry. This is all about self-testing again, which is really, really important. This is her opportunity to work independently, have a look at those exam skills, have a look at the content, and test herself. And we're going to be doing a lot of work with the girls about the importance of self-testing in terms of revision. All of this is stored in our one-stop shop, our GCSE academic support. So go home tonight, have a look at that button on our website and click on it and have a navigate through. There's a lot of materials on there, so it's really important you start having a look around now and find the resources that are going to work best for you, for your subjects. My main message then is quite clear. The starting gun has gone, and starting early in year 10, not in year 11, because this is a marathon. It's over 2 years, and the girls that are going to be successful at the end, the girls are going to run through that finishing line with smiles on their faces, are going to be the ones that have taken a slow, careful, and consistent approach to the whole thing. 3 clear ideas. This is you now, ready to go, excited. This is you for 2 years, running through that marathon, little and often, drip feeding in the revision, checking through your course content, making sure your revision notes are super good so that future you can run through that line feeling confident and happy about where she is at the end. I'm here to talk to you at any time. You know where I am. Contact me, and I'm really happy to talk about this or any other part of the curriculum or assessment in Year 10 and GCSE. Best of luck. It's going to be a great journey.
Hello, I'm Helen Norton. I'm the Director of Achievement for Year 10. Obviously, most of you would have met me last year in Year 9, and I'm going to see your daughters right through to Year 11. This section is about how to support your daughter through the next 2 years, through all the mocks that they will go through and coming up through her GCSEs. We're going to look at how to succeed. So our students succeed by being prepared for their work, making most of their schoolwork and their homework. So both of these sections are important. So they have to be working hard within school, but they also have to be putting the extra hours while they're at home on their homework. They need to be good at working independently, which obviously they've got good practice with now from what happened last year. They need to make sure that they don't give up, and if they do need help, to contact their teachers or myself so we can support. And they need to really just want to do well and strive to do their best at all times. Your role as a parent, you are going to play a very important role over the next 2 years, along with us here at school. We would need you to be a role model to make sure that you're helping them to make a timetable, that they have a nice area within your home to do all their work, their homework and their revision. We need to make sure that they have goals, and we need these to be small so that they're achievable and that we can do these at certain points throughout the year. We need to make sure that they're taking breaks between their revision and their homework, making sure that they're staying active, getting out for walks or just sitting down and having a chat and a cup of tea, just things that are going to alleviate the pressures of the work that they're going to be bringing home. We need to encourage them to eat healthy and also to get plenty of sleep. And also we need to really look at the phones, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on as well. Our role as a school, we are going to ensure that we provide engaging and challenging lessons throughout the whole GCSE curriculum. We need to set up and reinforce lessons so that we can give feedback, and we can give verbal feedback and written feedback so that our students know how to progress and to make their work better. And we offer extra support. So our extra support and interventions will look
in the form of LEAP sessions, and we also have lunchtime sessions. And in the next 2 years, your daughter will also have the opportunity to attend sessions within our holiday period, such as Easter time, where our staff come in and run important interventions and support groups. We have a lot of online resources, and our job will be to make sure that you know where these are and how to access these, and to ensure your daughter has all the login details to be able to access these sites. We are going to motivate and encourage your daughters, and also we are going to persist to get them through the next 2 years. Some practical suggestions. Now, all of our girls will have different ways to do things, and they've maybe found these little tips and tricks already. But if not, some helpful suggestions that we can provide, things like making sure that they have a whiteboard or a pinboard at home where they can put up a timetable, they can rub work out and put new things in, and it's going to be helping them with their revision. We also suggest revision cards where they can write down, summarise notes, and these are very much easier to revise from. We think post-its are also a really good idea, and means that they can write short little notes and reminders in their larger sets of notes, and it means that once they've went through it a few times, it makes it a lot easier to revise from. We do suggest that if they have any practice papers or past papers to complete, that they set it out in timed sessions so that they're practicing doing things within the time limit. This is also a really good suggestion to help prepare them for their mocks and their exams that they have got coming up. And also, rewards don't go amiss also. So I think things like Amazon gift cards, a little treat, or maybe a dinner or something like a coffee and a croissant, all of those things can drive good success as well. We all like a little bit of a reward. Attendance plays a huge factor on their success at the end of year 11. There has been research completed to show that good attendance also leads to good grades. And as attendance goes down, what we notice is with the missed work, the missed homework, and also the disengagement with school, that grades start to deteriorate. So we would suggest that please make sure your daughter is attending school 100% of the time to give her the best chance to succeed over these next 2 years. As I said at the beginning, phones are such a big thing, and over the period of the lockdown, we noticed that the actual phone use and digital use with laptops and iPads and phones has shot up extremely high. And what we want to make sure is that they are using these in the right conditions, so that they use them for research and for revision, but that there also needs to be some restrictions put in place. A lot of our students are using their phones too late at night, and this is then interfering with their sleep. And a survey was completed, and what they're saying is that if children spend 6 hours or more on their screens during the day, and if they spend over these hours, they're going to fall behind by 2 grades on their GCSEs. This is a huge amount, so we need to think of some ideas to help fix this. What we would suggest is that making sure that before bedtime, they have maybe an hour before bed without any phone use. So that might be sitting down and reading for a bit or having a family chat. But we would recommend that these phones are not used before bedtime. And also, I've heard of a lot of good suggestions that some people keep all the phones downstairs at night so that they know their girls aren't using their phones in bed, because I know I've heard a lot of stories about some of our girls maybe staying up to 3 o'clock in the morning, which is definitely going to have an impact on the next school day. Some ideas that we're thinking of, there's a few different apps out there that may help. So we've got Flipped app. What happens here is that you can actually set a timer on your phone. This will turn your phone off at designated chosen times by yourself. This is really helpful because it will completely switch your phone off, and if you have those times preset, it means that you don't really have to think about switching off from the digital aspect of things. We also have the Moment app, which tracks your phone use and screen time for the day. It shows you what apps you're maybe using more than anything else, and then will allow you to complete a digital detox by minimizing that per day. And the last one is where you can plant a tree, and every time that you turn off your phone or don't use your phone, the tree actually grows. So this is called the Pleasant app, and this will mean that your tree grows as you use it, and as soon as you use it, it will die. So it's a really good visual reminder of maybe not using your phone. So those are 3 apps that are quite helpful. The other thing I would recommend is a 7-day digital detox. There are a lot of calendars for this that we can provide the girls, and it just leads them through a 7-day detox where they will minimise their phone and digital screen time for the week, which is also something that's really good to help with that. We're also saying don't revise with music. You don't have music in an exam, so if this becomes a normal way of learning for your girls, it might mean that they create a negative environment during an exam, which is quite quiet. If they do prefer listening to music, what we would recommend is classical music, as it helps with the revision purposes. So that is one type of music that we would definitely recommend. Other types I would technically stay away from. And my final reminder is what you put in is what you get out. Over the next 2 years, we just have to make sure that our girls are working hard, they are striving to achieve their best at all times, and that they are seeking help when needed. And as a school, and for you as parents, I think if we come together and really help them achieve over this next 2 years. If you do need any help, please don't hesitate to contact me as your Director of Achievement or seek the help from your pastoral manager this year.
Hi, my name's Philippa Johnston. I'm the Careers Leader for Years 7 to 11, and I'm based at the Broomhays site. I work alongside Miss Langford Lackney, who is the Careers Leader for Sixth Form, and she's based at the Upper Oldfield Park site. As well, in our team, we have an independent careers guidance practitioner she comes from externally to the school once a week, and this year we have Melanie Worley working with us. The key thing for Year 10 is the Year 10 Work Experience Week, which is going to be their enrichment week, July the 5th to the 9th. It's really important that all Year 10s carry out some sort of form of work experience because it gives them an advantage when applying to colleges, universities and employers, and helps with developing their employability skills. It sets them apart. In usual times, we aim for students to have a full 5 days of work experience, but because of the uncertainty of COVID-19, we most likely might end up with a hybrid approach. So some students will be able to secure the normal work experience placements, which did happen despite COVID lockdown. Some students did manage to go on placements last year, but others will do a virtual work experience. Maybe the company's doing it virtually, or bits of both. In terms of how they go about securing it, it's key that students start looking early. The responsibility is on them, and they are competing with other schools across the country and also local schools that have the same week as us. It's really important that they get as much help as possible from home and seek help from us if they're stuck, because places will book up fast. A lot of places get advertised in the autumn term. If they are stuck and they need extra help, we're going to be covering some work experience in PSHE, and in tutor sessions, tutors are going to be monitoring and checking that students are carrying out good work experience methods of finding placements, and there is some support available through the year from the independent careers advisor or subject teachers. Sometimes it's subject teachers that have contacts, so please don't hesitate to get in touch if you need some help, and there'll be further correspondence to follow later in the year. Thank you.
There we are. Thank you very much, everybody. That wraps up our set of presentations. Just remains for me to say thank you very much for watching and listening. I hope that it's been very informative for you. If you've got any questions or any queries, please don't hesitate to get in touch using the information at haysfield.com. We'll await your questions and queries. Thank you. Good night.